Hello everybody, we're going to try to do a short video here on for each loops, and we're going to infuse them into our program that we're already using. So let's just jump into it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and label each grade of whatever grade type we're using. So if you remember right, we did pretty much everything on the compute side. So let's go ahead and double click into compute. And I made just one major change in here. We have three callouts to three methods/functions. And last time we activated the average. This time we're going to activate the grade because grade only needs average to run. So once we find out average, there's no reason to not deactivate it. It's going to solve correctly based on whether average is solved correctly. And then I could activate the feedback grade, which as you can see is right below here. But you can see really it's just throwing a bunch of message boxes at us. So it's more annoying, especially if you're doing a lot of data for this. So all we've done is taken away the two slashes to take it from a comment to an actual call out here. Then we're going to go up, or most of you are going to go up to compute average, which we did last time, and this should look familiar to you. The for loop that went from I to 0 to the max of test count. And today what we're going to add in here is a for each statement. Just to kind of contrast what both do. Now, they will functionally do almost the same exact thing. But you make it a little easier with for each. So just like we had an integer I to start off, we have an integer grs, that's short for grades, to start off here. Then we're going to say in test. So before we're counting, and the nice thing about arrays and lists, they have a definite size, so you can go to the maximum size. But when you use for each, it automatically does anything in the list, which is great for a list because remember, a list is going to be resized. For eaches have been created relatively recently in programming and in object-oriented programming. So in other words, like 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't have seen for eaches. So they're kind of nice in that they automatically figure out what to do for each item. They do not have to use orders. In other words, they can parallel process these things. And in this case, what we did is we added items to LB grades, which if you remember right, was this box right here. So in here, in the first for statement, it's going to add everything up, which is cool. In the second for statement, it is going to put the actual grades of that list inside there. Now, GRS is a read-only, so it's a temporary variable that's going to get spit out or gotten rid of as soon as the scope's over with. But it's going to represent test 0, test 1, test 2. And when I say test 1, test 0, I'm talking about their elements, their index. So test sub 0, test sub 1, that sort of thing. And then, as you can see, we take it to string to make sure that it writes in the box properly. And that is it. We kept the average and we kept the label, and all the rest of the stuff is the same. The only thing difference is this clear, and we'll talk about that in a second. First, let's test this out. So in other words, we have a 90. And we can remember from last time, the compute button automatically averages it, and it also enters it into the string, in this case, test. We don't actually have to type in test yet because we haven't set that up. But let's go ahead and just do another average. So this is, if we do 90 and 100, we're going to get an average of 95. It should be an A, and it should be 95. And as you can see, it's going to write to each one. Now, the reason for that clear is because each time you go into it, it adds to the box. So in other words, if I go in and type the same two numbers without that being activated or without that being commented out, it will write 90 just fine. But then when I add the 100, What it does is it adds the 90 and the 100 again. Oh, in this case, I typed in 10. But if I add in 100 and then compute, now it goes 90, 10, 100. So 90, 90, 10, 90, 10, 100. It's just continuing to add. At some point, you got to remove all that data so the list is properly displayed in that box. And that's it. So let's go ahead and undo that. In fact, we can get rid of this. You might have noticed that I got rid of some comment lines in here. There's a test 1, test 2, test 3, not in terms of arrays, but as in actual single variables. I just went ahead and deleted those comment lines out because they're just taking up space, and they might have drawn the eyes to information that we don't need. So this is good. Now we have a nice, clean, short, succinct function. All we're going to do is return average, and it's pretty nice and clean. The only thing that we have to do now is use that grade type to our advantage.